Hello and welcome. This is Jasur from Shanghai Silk Road and also JR & Firm, corporate consultancy company based in Shanghai. In this next episode, we're going to answer some of the frequently asked questions regarding starting a WFOE in Shanghai specifically. So let's start one by one and see if you have any more questions. You are welcome to email us or leave them in the comment section below. I will be glad to address them. Number one question that we get asked is, how long does it take to start a WFOE, that stands for Wholly Foreign-Owned Enterprise, in Shanghai? Typically, it takes around 1.5 months. But as we mentioned before, our company can expedite the service. We can obtain your license in a matter of days. It's approximately between 3 and 5 working days. If you're in a rush, you want to start your operations as soon as possible, you can let us know. Of course, it comes with extra charge for speeding up the process, but it's possible. Generally speaking, it's 1.5 months. And we're talking about business days, obviously, because in China, government system only works on work days, that is between Monday and Friday, and Saturday and Sunday off days. So most of the government departments, they don't work. So obviously you need to wait. Now, the time frame, as we mentioned before, is approximate. Okay, there are some departments, for example, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. For example, tax department, customs department. Although we try to speed up the process, sometimes it might not be possible. So when it comes to timeframes in China, you just have to be a little bit patient. Of course, it's not going to last unreasonably long, but still, it's our job to mention that the timeframes are only approximate. We do our absolute best to speed up the whole process, but still, 100% nobody is in the position to guarantee. So I hope our clients understand that. Next question is we get quite often is, what is the capital requirement for a WFOE in China or in Shanghai? Well, as we mentioned before, since 2014, China no longer imposes mandatory minimum required capital for WFOEs. You can literally start your company without injecting any capital, and you can also sponsor your foreign employees' visas with the same company, okay, without injecting any capital, as long as your employees qualify for work permit. We're going to discuss the work permit requirements in a moment, but yeah, you don't have to really inject any capital since 2014. Can a WFOE engage in direct sales in China? Absolutely, yes, it can. WFOE, basically, it stands for Wholly Foreign-Owned Enterprise, and it's a limited liability company. It operates exactly like a limited liability company in most of the other countries. Just like in the US, Europe, any country you name it. There might be some minor differences, but still, it's a limited liability company, can engage in any legal business. There are some areas which require special licensing, for example, food and beverage, tobacco, some chemicals, etc., which are obtainable. Okay, but generally speaking, yes, it can engage in direct sales in China. What documents do I need to register a WFOE in China? It really depends. Generally speaking, just like in any other country, registering your WFOE can be done in two ways. Number one is through individual shareholding. Like yourself, for example, as a person, can start this company under your own name, personal name. That is individual shareholding. You means that you will be the owner of this company. So in this case, set of documents required is different. All you have to do is provide a copy of your passport, and if you're in China, that is a copy of your visa, and also a copy of the entry and exit stamp. This stamp is basically given when you're crossing the border into China at the airport. So you just have to provide the copies, that's it. But as an individual shareholder, if you're outside of China, then you have to contact the Chinese embassy and get your passport legalized and obtain that legalization document, okay, with a special seal, and send that legalization document by post to us. Okay, so that's the only document you require to register a company in China. A lot of people sometimes mix and confuse with the requirements to obtain work permit and the requirements to start a company. They sometimes think that they have to provide non-criminal background check or their diploma, etc., etc. those documents are required when you're applying for your work permit in China, okay, not for the company registration. For company registration, just like I said, as a personal shareholder, as an individual shareholder, you just have to provide the copy of your passport. If you're in China, copy of your visa and entry-exit stamp. If you're outside of China, just contact the Chinese embassy or consulate, get your passport legalized, get that original document, legalization document, and send it to us by post. But what if, this is the second option now, what if you want to register the company under your existing company? Let's assume you have a company in the US, you want to use that company as a mother company and register your WFOE under its name. So in this case, additional to your personal documents, because as a person, you're still the company director, which I'm assuming, but the company shareholder is going to be a US company. So in that case, you just have to, again, contact the Chinese embassy, get the set of documents of your US company legalized through the Chinese embassy or consulate, and then send those original legalization documents to us by post. And that's it. So in this case, depends. If you're in China, you don't have to legalize your own documents, but you're still required to legalize your existing company documents from Chinese embassy or consulate. Okay, that is required in either case if you want to use your existing company as a mother company. So set of documents depends on your situation here. How would you like to register the company? And there's the second part of the document, which is required from the supervisor. As we discussed extensively before, when you're registering a WFOE in China, you are required to provide two positions, one company director, another one is company supervisor. So for the company supervisor, you're also required to provide a copy of the passport. I'm going to emphasize this. It's just a copy of the passport. And plus supervisor is not required to visit China. You just have to provide the copy of their passport. And you don't have to really contact the Chinese embassy and get their passport legalized, okay? The only thing required is the copy of their identity document, which is the passport, okay? Not the ID, but the passport, international passport. Because I came across this before. We had a client from Europe, and they never obtained a passport. So they just provided the ID copy, which we cannot use. Next question is, what is a work permit and why do I need one? Now, maybe unlike some of the countries, when you want to work in China, on top of your work visa, you have to apply for work permit card. That's a card, okay? That's a card usually given for 1 year, and it's usually attached to the sponsoring company. So in this scenario, you're registering a WFOE, wholly owned foreign enterprise, LTD company, and you want to work for your own company as a company director, or any other position you can assign to yourself. You can be a manager, you can be an engineer, etc. In any case, when you want to work for this company, you have to apply for work permit card first before you apply for your work visa. Actually, it's not called work visa inside China. Work visa is the entry visa that you apply at the Chinese embassy or consulate when you're coming into China, okay, with the invitation from your company. So that's different. So let's talk about the work permit first, and then I'm going to explain the different types of the visa. So now, work permit, like I said, it's the permit to work for this company. It's usually given for 1 year, and it's applied only within China, okay? So once you register your company, WFOE, the first thing you will have to do as a company director is to visit the labor department and open a labor account for this company. So once you apply for this labor account, which usually takes 1 full day or 2 business days, okay? If you cannot finish it in 1 day, maybe you will have to follow it up on the next day. But once this labor account is open, you will have to fill out some online form and apply for this work permit card. Usually during the work permit card application, you will have to provide all the necessary documents for this applicant. It can be you if you're doing it yourself. So what are these documents? Usually they are the requirements for the work visa, and they are the same requirements. Number 1 is minimum bachelor's degree. So the degree should be basically from a recognized university. You can check if that university is recognized or not through the UN database, which I talked about before. So this university, the degree issuing university, should be recognized university, okay? Recognized should be listed in the UN database. Number 2 requirement is 2 years work experience, and that has to be professional paid work experience. Some people keep asking us, can I use my internship? Can I use period that I worked for this company online, etc.? No. Answer is no. It must be paid professional full-time work experience. Again, there are some cases that people say, I don't have work experience. Can I use something else, etc.? Unfortunately, no, you cannot. Work experience cannot be skipped, so you just have to provide this. It's a requirement. Now, 2-year work experience should be provided in the headed paper of the issuing company. If you worked for many companies, maybe you can combine, and then the total length of your work experience should still equal to 2 years. So maybe 9 months in one company, and then 1 year in one company, and 3 months in another company, etc. So you can combine. All right. So all the papers should be on the official papers, headed papers of the issuing companies. So that's number 2. Number 3 is you have to provide non-criminal background check from your country of citizenship. Some people live in many other countries which they are not the citizen of, and they assume that because they are not living in their country, they assume that I have to get a criminal background check from this country. No, which is wrong. In China, even if you're not living in your country for a long time, you have to provide background check, non-criminal background check from your own country of citizenship. That is the important part here. And these are the 3 major requirements. And also on top of that, you have to provide medical check. Medical check is usually from China, okay, from the application place. If it's Shanghai, there are designated hospitals. Actually, you need to contact them and go through a medical check and obtain medical certificate and upload that in the system when you're applying for this work permit. Work permit application usually takes around 5 days, 5 business days to be approved. We're talking about category B. And also, on top of these documents I listed, I almost forgot to mention, you need to provide tenancy agreement in Shanghai. And also the lease agreement, rental agreement for your company office. And obviously company documents. So that's all of the documents, approximately speaking, the work permit requires. So once you apply, once you submit all the documents, you just have to wait for 5 days, 5, 6 days, sometimes 10 days. And once your work permit card is approved, you just have to go in person and then get that card. And once you get that card, immediately on the same day, you can apply for your residence permit. Now, residence permit with the right to work for this company, okay? Pay attention, it's not called work visa anymore, okay? Work visa, like I mentioned earlier, work visa only happens when you're outside of China at the time of application. Imagine that you get your work permit and then you leave, okay? Once you leave, your company, someone from your company initiate the process for invitation to invite you into China to work for this company, okay? When you're outside, so with that invitation, you can go to the Chinese embassy and consulate and apply for work visa, which is Z visa. Z visa is only entry visa. That's it. It's only the entry visa. It's usually valid for 1 month. And once you get that work visa, you come here, and one month validity, it's going to expire. You just have to really hurry up, convert it into residence permit, which I'm explaining right now. So once you're inside China, your only job will be to apply for residence permit with the right to work for this company. Okay, so now let's go back. Okay, let's go back to the time where I was talking about residence permit. Now you get your work permit, you haven't left China, so forget about work visa. Once you get your work permit, you apply on the same day, you apply for your residence permit. Residence permit usually is given between 1 month and 1 year. It's really hard to say the validity anymore because it highly depends on your situation, and it depends on this specific immigration officer who is handling the application. And also depends on your company's status, basically. If you have invested some amount of money, although it's not required now since 2014, but if you invest, if you inject capital, that's an added value. It's going to definitely increase the chances of getting a longer visa, residence visa. If not, then you have to talk to this officer. Usually there's an interview. You just have to talk and explain what kind of business you want to do here and answer to their questions. So it depends, okay, on the interview. If they're satisfied, you might get 1 year residence visa. If they're not satisfied, then you can expect anything between 1 month and 6 months, okay? So when you usually get shorter one, the officer is going to mention what is the reason and what you have to do when you come for extension. You just have to listen to them very carefully and make sure you prepare for your extension, okay, accordingly. So take notes if necessary, because if you get a short one, you just have to try your really best to comply with these requirements and prepare all the required documentation before this time frame expires. Okay, so that's generally speaking, this is the general information here. But of course, situations might be different. This is China. But I'm not saying that the situation or the whole requirements are going to be that different, but still there might be slight differences depending on situation, depending on specifically the officer who is handling your work, permit application and residence permit applications. And next question, can I hire foreign employees in WFOE? Yes, you can, including yourself, because you are the legal representative director of the company, which we've talked about, the work permit and residence permit right now. So that starts actually from the company director. That's a very interesting question, actually. Sometimes people want to hire other foreign employees than themselves. Okay, they are company director, but they don't want to live in Shanghai. They don't want to live in China. They want to live in their own country, maybe in Brazil, US, whatever, the home country. But they ask, can I hire someone else, some other people to run the company, but I want to remain as company director? In this scenario, I don't think it's possible yet, because practically speaking, immigration, they tend to refuse applications for residence permit and work permit when this company's director, foreigner, is not living in China. Does not have, specifically speaking, does not have a work visa from this company yet. So to put it differently, if as a director of this company, you are a foreigner, if you are not holding any work visa, any work permit from your company, then this company cannot sponsor other employees' visas. That's the practical situation. Because I came across with this kind of situation before, and in all cases, the applications were refused with the saying that the reason that this company's director is not here. Okay, so it means that company is not that active, they're not devoted, etc., etc. If you want to hire other foreign employees, make sure, first of all, option number one, you are yourself as a company director is here, or you change the company director into other person. Okay, and make sure that in either case the company director is in China, and then after that you can hire foreign employees. Now, another question arises is how many foreign employees you can hire under one company. Now, it's really, difficult to say, but again, from practical point of view, normally immigration allows 2 foreign employees, including the company director, without any capital injection. Because obviously you have to look at this from logical perspective as well. Like if you employ more than 2, then obviously the company should be worth something, some kind of capital should be there in order to sponsor or in order to pay their salaries. Okay, why 2 is allowed? Because again, we have to go back to the point where I mentioned in China 2 positions are mandatory: director and supervisor of the company. So naturally speaking, for these 2 to start the business, to start the operations, the immigration is going to let, but allow them to get their visas. But if more than 2, there are any other employees like engineer, IT, HR, etc., you want them all to be foreigners, then obviously you have to make sure the company has some capital inside the bank account, that this company is able to pay for their salaries. Otherwise, the immigration is going to say, how are you going to maintain so many foreign employees? Who is going to pay for their living expenses? Who's going to pay for their salaries, etc.? And now from day by day, many cities in China making it mandatory to pay for social security as well for their employees, except for Shanghai nowadays. In Shanghai, it's still optional, but still like 95%, I would say, of the cities in China made it mandatory to pay for social security, which is 2,000 yuan a month. And that's, of course, it's not a huge amount, but still it's almost like $400, $500 now. So you just have to prepare for that as well. So I think I've explained that enough. So it depends, okay? It depends on the financial situation, except for the 2 mandatory positions: director's visa and supervisor's visa. The rest depends on the investment. Now, next question: what happens if I want to close my WFOE? Literally nothing. Because China eliminated 2014 capital requirement, it means that they are giving opportunity for foreign businesses and entrepreneurs to test the market, basically. And usually when you get your company license, the validity period is usually 30 years and more, and that's the time frame for you to inject the registered capital. Registered capital is the amount you write on the business license. Usually for trading companies is around $300,000, and for consulting companies it can be 100,000 yuan, etc. There's no specific requirement, but depending on the location, depending on the economic zone you register your company, there might be some preferred amounts, because every economic zone, they have their own policies, so you just have to comply with them. So that registered capital is not only on paper. usually you have this validity of your business license as the time frame to inject that registered capital. Okay, so if you decide to shut it down after a couple of years, then it's up to you. There's no requirement, there's no law that the government is going to pursue you and ask you to inject that capital because you want to shut it down. Yeah, you can do that. We are doing it all the time, not frequently anymore, because China is open, and now literally you can get a visa to come here in and out. There's no restriction. COVID is ended. So nowadays we're not closing that many companies as we used to do during COVID. So now basically more people are opening up companies than the ones closing. But we did assist our clients to close their companies without any issues whatsoever. And usually it's a lengthy process. It might take anywhere between 2 and 6 months, or sometimes longer if the company has operations, because there's a legwork, there's a paperwork. We have to collect, we have to gather paperwork from different departments. That starts from company registrar, tax bureau, customs bureau, etc., etc. And all of them generally should say that they don't have any problems with you closing the company. And that's about it. So basically, these are the most frequently asked questions usually we receive. We've been receiving over the last couple of weeks now. But if you have more questions specific to your situation, feel free to email us or leave in the comment section below. I will be glad to address them. And once again, it's been Jasur with you today. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys.